What is up, students? It's Devlin Cassidy, aka The Scholar, and today we're going to be going over our Ange V Premium deck profile. This was one of the decks I was considering taking to Rosemont, but I decided to go with something else. But I definitely wanted to give you guys an opportunity to see this list. If you guys are trying to make any last-minute V Premium selections, I think this deck is a fantastic choice because this has a great position in the meta. But before we get into it, if you'd love to support me and the content that I continually put out, please go shop with Kingslayer cards. Their link is in the description down below, and use the promo code SCHOLAR and save 5% off. It helps supports me, and it supports one of the best stores in the game, and it gets you cardboard. So please do it. It'd be absolutely fantastic, and I really appreciate it. But let's get into it. So of course you have to play your V starter. I just have the Shizuku SP. You guys know me, I love bling, so we have her. And then, of course, into the tried and true part of the deck, we have 4 copies of Ange. So she essentially does kind of everything. The deck essentially revolves around riding her, and if you don't ride her, you're in trouble. But she cares about normal units being on the board and that you return them to your hand. So you can return either player's units, but you primarily want to just do your own because you have all these broken on-place effects that you would love to reuse every turn. And so if you return 2 or more, she gets 10k. If you return 3 or more, you get an imaginary gift force. And if you return 4 or more, you will get this ability to call a card from deck, which is awesome. It enables a bunch of 5 attack ways to perform in the deck because there's cards in here that will extend beyond that. So you can definitely get 4 attacks if you return 4 or more, but most of the time it's 5 with some pretty solid numbers. So Ange is perfect for that, and we really love her. However, though, there is just a slight issue that there's only 4 of her, and you really need to ride her. And so I do play a 5th ride target because I much rather G-assist and not have to ride into a Tirawa, and in this case it is actually Reet. I like Reet because she is a restander, and she just does a bunch of other things. She gets forces. If you're actually stuck on her, she can get you an imaginary gift force when going second. And so it's a CV, discard a card, restand it, get a force, and just continually apply pressure, which I really enjoy because you can just continue get your Vanguard a little beefy and then ride into the Ange, and then your Vanguard column is actually really strong. So your opponent has to respect it after a Reet. But obviously this is just primarily discard fodder or whatever. You're spam calling a Sedna, you're just going to check top 5 and just discard her out of here. But this is a kind of a panic button, if you will. And then we have 2 copies of Tirawa. So this is our big attacker. You want to slam a bunch of force markers under her and have her be a restander every turn, where you're just going to hopefully drive trick a crit, put it on her and be 43 2 crit, 43 2 crit, something crazy like that. She's really good. She'll be able to get her restand ability when you return 3 or more normal units total, and that's why she's really important. You're not too big on riding on her, even though she is a restander. She doesn't get the value that Reet does, and she's just much way better as a rear guard to be able to bounce and protect her. That will wrap up our grade 3 lineup. Going on into our grade 2s, we're playing 4 copies of Lizelet. This is the most broken card ever in Bermuda. This is so free. It enables allows Ange to have a very strong early game, allows you to push forward for numbers, get you more bodies to the board. Essentially in the mirror match between Ange mirrors, literally the fate of the game rides on whose Lizelets were better. It just was oh, if my Lizelet calls triggers and my opponent's Lizelets call the normal units, they just have far more advantage because then they're actively being able to plus to their hand because of Ange's skill of just being able to return normal units. Most of the time, if you have to call a trigger, you'll just slam it behind Ange, so that way you have a constant booster of 5k, so you're able to just continually push a little more magic numbers against Luard and Ange and things like that. So that's why she's important. But definitely, it's very important, in the Ange mirrors, for kind of your Lizelets to be better if you want to win the matchup, because that's what it really comes down to. But the fact it just lets you rush Luard in other decks is just super strong, so we really do love it in the grade 1 slot, going second. Then we play 4 Sierra. So this card I really like. It's on Vanguard or Rearguard. You can discard a card and you dig 3. and you're able to add a card to your hand, and then she gets 5k, and if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, she gets 10, which is awesome. This is going to allow you to dig for certain combo and guard pieces we have at our grade 1 slot, and so she's just really, really perfect, and I love the fact that we have access to her, and I wouldn't really trade her for anything. She has just a lot of good value, she makes strong numbers, and yeah, just all around standout card, great Bermuda Triangle staple. And then speaking of staples, we are playing 3 Aqua. So why not 4? And I'm going to give you guys a very simple answer. The reason it's not 4 is because her Aqua's like clause is a true like once per turn. And so I wish that I could have played something a little different in the grade 2 lineup, but she's still a good card, don't get me wrong. Like riding into her after you like went second and called Eliza, just like hopefully call another body to the board is crazy. But I just didn't like her like having stuck in my hand like use 1 bounce, draw, and then like not be able to play a card going second. So I much rather had like a 15 or like 20k body in Sierra, and that's why actually I cut her for the one of. So yeah, this is why Aqua is a 3 of. And then Stisika will wrap up our grade 2 lineup. I just wanted a way for more bodies. She literally says her top skill is that if a player's normal unit was returned or rearguard was returned to hand this turn, she gets 10k, which like you're playing Ange, so things are going to get returned. And she can put normal units back to the bottom of the deck, which is important. I think just getting more combo pieces and stuff to your deck, because there's sometimes like where you can deck out, and she kind of helps avoid that. But as you guys can notice that there's no Pearl Sisters in here. I don't think the Pearl Sisters are actually as good as Ange as everyone claims they're out to be. They're just extra shield that like once they're retired, you can't get them back. Like because without Q-Tire, like you can't actively search them like the way you could like an older Ange Lander decks. And that's just how it kind of goes. So that's why no Pearl Sisters are in here. As much as I love those cards in a lot of decks, they're just kind of dead bricks. But moving on into our grade 1s. For Ellie, I'm so glad that this card is back. This card is broken. This is 20k shields. So you're playing essentially the 20k shield heals already. And this is why she can fill in that role. And she's perfect. She allows on-hit pressure. You don't mind calling her off Lizeless to make like 18k lanes going second. Then it's like an on-hit. Now cool, I'm going to add a 20k shield to hand. Deck that on my card by 1. Increases my chances of hitting triggers. She's just an all-star. So that's why I just really, really enjoy being able to play her again, because she was a really good backbone for the defensive Bermuda pieces. And so she's back in Ange and she's here to stay. Then I'm going to play 3 copies of Sedna. Again, finding your Ange is very important. Although I did want to play some other cards, so that's why I'm not maxed her out as a 4 of, but you can cut any one of the next following grade 1s for an additional Sedna just for the ride consistency. Then I'm going for 3 Murtoa. This is one maybe like you could just play 2 of and it's absolutely fine. But the bigger thing here is that like Murtoa is one of your attack extensions as well as Elizalet, where like you call her from deck, you Soul Blast 1, you draw a card, and then you choose if your opponents are, if my Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, I choose a card and I call it from hand, and so does my opponent, and then my opponent doesn't get its auto abilities. As much as I hate my opponent plussing, this card is just too good because you can call like if you haven't activated Elizalet, you can make like actually like 2 solid lanes, so you can be like call the Lizelet and then have the Lizelet flip on like the force marker stack, so you can have like a 28k lane, and then like something over here is like at least, I don't know, 25, so it hits over a trigger. So yeah, you can't really like beat that. I think that that's really strong and important. So Murtoa opens a lot of avenue of plays. Then I'm playing 2 Nikita. She's a staple, I think, right now in Bermuda. Like, she's defensive powerhouse. So what you can do is you can put cards to soul as well with Lizelet. And so, like, you can drop her down. She can be like a 25k shield that draws you a card. Like, she's a pseudo G Guardian, which I find really, really cool. Because the only other card in the deck that requires a Soul Blast is Murtoa herself. Which, like, sometimes you even just don't even go that avenue because you don't want your opponents drawing the cards. But, yeah. Nikita's really cool. I'm really glad that like Bermuda got access to her. She's, I think, is one of the also the staple cards for V for Bermuda going forward for like non-melody lists. So yeah, definitely play her. And then for the last normal unit of the deck, I'm playing 2 Finessa. This card is the only card really like for Ange that lets you plus versus like just going net even. Because 9 times out of 10, if you're not like hitting normal units off Lizelet, you're just netting, just being able to return that Weaselet to your hand to reuse it again. This is the only card that like can actively like let you plus. So if you have a Tirawa, most of the time, like if for like the 4th attack extensions, I just literally call the Finessa from the deck behind the Tirawa just to get a boost to be able to draw a card, because I'm just going to shove like a heal into the bottom of the deck if I find her guard with those early, and so that's why she's just like really important. She does like a multitude of things in the deck, so like she pluses, she returns your heals back to the deck, she can return like other combo pieces back to the deck, so she's just really worth it, and she's an all-star, so I'm really glad that we have her. Onto the trigger lineup, I'm playing 3 and 1 split. Just because of how like much Ange compresses, the 4th draw was coming up to be an issue a little bit for me. Plus, like crits win games. Like in the best of 1, you're like kind of thinking is like, hey, you can steal a game with a crit, or if like your opponent sees these 3 and they haven't seen this yet, and they're like trigger count, and then like, oh, okay, cool, he's just playing a 4th like draw PG no guard. You can just like steal the game with the crit, and then your opponent's like, well, rip, I'm taking like 2 damage now when I'm at like 5 or 4 or whatever. So yeah, just the crit steal, and plus like most of the time it's like a 1-card block against pretty much everything, especially like early. Like the fact that this is just like hard guard a Lord lane is kind of nice, so can't disrespect that. Then I'm playing additionally 8 crit, just because again crits win games. You want to just play these, you're trying to be aggressive and like establish like your tempo very early, so just early crits just can steal fate. And then 4 heal guardians, again just being able to live, because Ange like absolutely hates being rushed. Like because they're a net even deck, you want it definitely just to be able to live and stabilize early, and then you have the finesses to put these back. So please don't feel free, like if you feel like you're gonna like die, like just shotgun these, because you have ways to put them back into the deck. So yeah, I don't mind this at all. I think this card is great. You definitely need to play the 4 of, because you just need to see it early, because I thought like originally I had it as a 3 and 1 split, but then like I talked with Crow and some other people, and they're like, nah, put this thing up to 4. You need it to live. And then like I was winning more games with Ange after. So yeah. And of course, like primarily you're gonna go like Force 1. So just have your Force 1s and stuff just ready, and you'll be able to good to go and cook with this deck. But that is gonna do it for today, y'all. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day, and that you like, comment, subscribe, do all that good stuff. I love you all, and take care.